so we have constructionism with an N, and you have to tell me what it is, what it is. Tell us what constructionism is.
Well, by the title alone, construction is build, maybe.
Building
our knowledge.
Building together.
Together.
Is it the interaction of not the knowledge is created through the interaction with the world? Is that right?
And the interaction
learning
with
through
each other.
practical skills, learning through, construction, building, creating, being practical.
Yeah.
Doing things, bringing things together.
Yeah.
But it does rely, doesn't it, on the interaction between people, because isn't it about how things are not objective but they're intersubjective, so that the meaning of something isn't something that I construct. That would be more constructivist, but it's something that we construct if we're together. That's what constructionism is, isn't it?
What is anyone
I
else?
thought it was constructing your knowledge through cycles of your experiences. So every time you experience something new, you build something on top, and you revisit the same subject area again and again and again, and every time you learn a little bit more. And so in time you're constructing a neat wall or a messy wall, but you're constructing your knowledge piece by piece through cycles.
Literally or metaphorically, how do you mean that? Because we have another theory here. You looked at constructivism.
Yeah.
So this is constructionism as a learning theory. And we were just trying to get you to do some constructionism. Because constructionism is learning by doing. So being given a task and having to find the answers or construct the answers for yourself. So that can either be physically, I think, as I understand it, or it can be mentally. So you're asking the learner to do something with the information themselves before you give them input, because they'll get a deeper understanding, a deeper learning through having to go and find the information and do something with it.
Kind of the opposite of instructionism, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Instructionism is I tell you why it's relevant, and then you use that to actually learn it yourself to build up knowledge.
And the task of going away and learning sets and finding out about it, that was constructionism. So.
Whereas if Chris just lectured us for an hour about it, that would be instructionism, so it's the opposite one.
And that's supposed to affect a deeper understanding of things, and you're able to then apply it in certain ways.
And also, actually, it's important to know whether you're learning from the practice to add more knowledge, or the other way around, or the interaction between those two. You pull the knowledge depending on the practice, or from any other source, or go into practice and get the knowledge to feed your basics, actually, to go again and so on. So it's something which is actually going in a circle.
I think talking about our own practice, although I hadn't realised it until we sat here and talked about it, it's something I've actually done.
So okay. Some examples.
Yes,
so Steve had an example.
Yeah. That was something I did on Monday, because I'm talking about production lines with my students. And the first thing I did is I put up a list of all the tasks needed to make a sandwich and the times that it took to do each stage. And I said to them, decide how many people I should employ to make 10 sandwiches a minute. And left them for a quarter of an hour, which was really, really hard to do. I really struggled to keep my mouth shut. But I did do it, and the stuff that they picked up on, I could have left at that point, because really they'd answered everything that I then talked about for the next half an hour, but they'd brought it up, they produced it, not me. So I didn't realise I was doing it at the time.
And yeah, we were trying to think for examples, and I didn't actually think that I had an example of doing it in my practice, but I think as a PhD student, GTA, I do it, so having to learn stuff and then teach it is sort of my constructionism with an N. I have to learn it and then teach it, and that does it for me, but I don't think I do it for my students, so I might.
So that's a good
one. We've looked a bit more into the critiques and the positives, and we didn't have a huge overview of this, it has to be said. I'm not sure we've got a hugely deep understanding of it, but hopefully we'll go away and look at critiques.
I think a lot of field trips would fit into constructionism, and I think of some of the field work I take students on, and I give them tasks that they've got to go. So basically I take them out on Monday, and they're going to be leading the field trip. I've determined the route that we're going on, and they've had different tasks
because when we get into the field, they'll be talking about the urban environment to each other. So that would fit into constructionism, wouldn't it?
I think so, yeah. I think learning by doing, and you were talking about links with other things. We talked about that it linked with experiential learning, you know, experiencing something, creating an environment where they can experience something. And also you said about it relating to...
well, it's a good example of...
It related to reflecting. You know, if you could then go and reflect on the...
Yes, to an extent. I picked up on that, didn't I? They were saying about actually repeating. But a good example of that, I suppose it's carried on from what you're saying, but a practical application of this was in teaching of maths. So the relationship school children have with maths is very different from the relationship that we have with maths, those of us that use it. So 2 + 2 = 4 in a classroom because the teacher says 2 + 2 to an accountant equals 4 for a reason. And so it's giving reason and context when they're teaching it rather than just because Sir said so.
Yeah, so getting them to create a computer program to direct something around the screen or around the room, or to use maths to construct a Lego model. These were the different examples.
So yeah, so navigate this thing around, what they're learning is geometry, but they don't realise it because what they're doing is like a computer game or driving this cursor around.
And they've got reason in it. That was it. About meaning, giving the information meaning.
Yeah, practical.
I think it's a real missed opportunity in biology practicals, that I did as an undergraduate, because a biology practical, in essence, it's practical, you're doing, so you're learning by doing.
Yeah.
But actually what we were doing was following a protocol sheet that said, take flask A, mix it with flask B, spread it on plate C,
So that's the
and
instruction,
come back next week to see what's happened.
So we did
it,
doing something, it's the instructionism.
but we weren't actually thinking about,
yeah.
So actually, it was just instructionism.
Yeah,
and so that's a real missed opportunity that at the beginning of the class should be, this is what result we want, design your experiment.
And then that would have more application in your working life and then on.
But do our students need to know the theory, or do they just need to do it? Because this is the current policy in schools. And is it more important that the student, the pupil, the learner does what you've just described, or that we give them the label of the theory, you know?
I think that would come later maybe, that that you've guided the task in some way. I mean, it's not just free constructionism, you've created the experience or the task in some way, and then hopefully, get the information they need, or they're able to get the information they need, maybe when you give feedback at the end.
I mean, both of these theories are the consensus in schools and colleges, and the challenge to it is it really working?
I suppose that would be in the skill of the teacher.
If these aren't new ideas, these are now the establishment ideas. And the new idea is, are these ideas actually working in the end result?
Yeah, I think now, for example, if I bring an example now is learning by doing, like you explained, right, the definition. Now, most of the accounting programs, we include the internship, 1-year internship, 6-month internship in some countries. So, student goes to the accounting firms, they do actual work, and then they learn. That is, I think, according to them, that's the best learning, because they learn more about practice rather than the theories what we teach in the classes.
Is it enhanced by there being theoretical learning as well, or would they be better off to just go and be an accountant?
What do you mean?
Because I think what you're saying is, were you not saying that if they could just go and do it, if that's the important part of it, so they could just go and be an accountant or train to be an accountant in practice, or is there a use of there being an academic side to it as well?
Yeah, for example, it is like 3 years, 4 years degree. For first 3 years they learn in the university, and final year, yes, still they are in the university, they still go for the training. Like if you look at now, most of the medical students, I think they also do the same thing. So they go first 3 years to the university, and they have more practice as well, but finally, I think they go to the hospital and they practice.
So it might be the two working together.
I think it's a combination, isn't it?
Yeah,
I was an example recently in Media City where a student went out and did some filming in Snowdonia, and they came back and they said, I've learned absolutely loads, it's been amazing, I've learned tons, but what they perhaps hadn't realised is that they were putting theories into practice. If they had just sent them out without any of the prior information or things, so people, you've got to I think it's wise to give people enough information, or to enable to go out there and experience it. And that's the balance, isn't it? I think giving them the right information and before you know, getting the experience right.
It's the framing.
I think so.
Yeah, they can't do the task if they haven't got the basic tools, but it's us not giving them the tools and doing the task for them, it's giving them the basic tools and learn how to do the task with the tools.
Well, they could do it, but would they get as much out of it without, you know, some of the theory or some of the guidance, you know? Like, if you, like, coming back to your example, if you just went, here's a bunch of stuff, do something,
dangerous.
you know, you've got there's got to be enough there, hasn't there, the balance, you know?
Yeah, I think it has to be a progression. So the first lab practical probably would be take flask A and take flask B, and this is why we're doing it. And the second one would be, okay, here's flask A, what are you going to do with it? And sort of piece by piece.
So it's part of the
sort of loosen the reins.
Yes.
Now this is a good aspect because what we experience now after we include this internship for something practical aspects, it really improves the students' employability as well. For example, when we implement it without training aspects, sometimes they take like 6 months, maybe 1 year for finding jobs. But once we embedded this training program, 1 year training into the curriculum, because they get real experience, even they go for an interview, they know what they do, so the employability
could actually be something that goes on the degree description if you really build it into the course, you know, even not necessarily for such a vocational one as accounting, you could do it for other ones and say, I don't know, whichever specific skills that relate to jobs that.
Yeah, the problem is as well that you have to assume with each step that everyone's taking everything on board each time. And there's always going to be some people in the room that week on week don't get it, and week on week don't progress and don't understand. And so they're going to be the people that are dangerous in the lab where we say, right, design your own experiment. So I don't really know
Well, I had a sort of,
how you do that.
with this week's task, which we say is an example of constructionism, and I really struggled with it. Help me on Google Plus, and Julia and Alex.
Yeah, Alex gave some input as well, although he couldn't be here, he gave it on the community.
But it's kind of a little bit what Alex here is saying, that without some initial knowledge, I was kind of all at sea, and I could have done with half an hour of Chrissy just sort of explaining what it was, or something, in basic terms, so that then when I did the literature, it became, I don't know, I just felt a little bit lost with it. As I sort of go and get on with it, was a little bit too extreme.
So that might be a critique of it.
No, it didn't.
It was a critique of my practice.
But I suppose what is useful from that is the fact that Julia and Alex did come to my rescue, and I got the information. I didn't get it from you. I got it from them.
So what worked? The other theory?
They made it connected.